In 1962, Space War ran on a computer the size of a room. 60 years later, you can carry more processing power in a graphics card than that entire machine had, and still argue with strangers online about whether it's good enough. Today, walking into the gaming PC market is like walking into a car dealership where every vehicle looks identical from the outside but ranges from a golf cart to a Bugatti. 7 distinct levels of silicon, cooling, and bragging rights, running from a $500 office computer with a graphics card bolted on to a $15,000 liquid-cooled monument to excess. They all boot into Windows. They all run Fortnite, but they deliver completely different lives. Builders don't just sell PCs anymore, they sell a ladder. And if you don't know which rung you're standing on, you are guaranteed to either bottleneck your dream setup or blow your rent money on frames you'll never actually see. Let's dissect the 7 levels of the gaming PC ladder. Level 1, the Office Imposter, budget pre-built. We start at the absolute floor, the sub $600 pre-built. Walk into any big box store and you'll find these stacked on a shelf. Gaming PC printed proudly on the box. On paper, it looks like a steal, a real graphics card, RGB fans up front, a case that looks the part. It'll run older titles, browser games, and esports classics at a playable frame rate. But here's the catch nobody tells you at checkout: the power supply. These builds are almost always paired with a bargain bin PSU that can't handle a real upgrade path and a single stick of RAM running in single-channel mode, quietly cutting your performance before you've even installed a game. It looks like a gaming PC. It performs like a spreadsheet machine wearing a costume. Who buys this? The parent who typed gaming PC into a search bar and grabbed the first result. The kid who just wants to play Roblox and Minecraft without lag. It's a functional box, but it's the absolute bottom of the ladder. Level 2, the 1080p workhorse, entry gaming rig. If you skip the imposter box and actually shop with intention, you land on level 2, the true entry-level build, sitting around $700 to $900. This is universally recognized by PC builders as the smartest financial baseline in the entire hobby. A proper mid-range GPU, a current-generation CPU that doesn't choke the graphics card, and dual-channel RAM that actually lets the system breathe. This tier will run nearly every competitive shooter at 1080p, high settings, well past 100 frames per second. The honest limitation? Ray tracing and 1440p gaming. The moment you try to push this build past its lane into higher resolutions or cinematic lighting effects, the frame counter falls off a cliff. Before we climb into the premium tiers, do me a quick favor and hit subscribe. I don't read off marketing slides from GPU manufacturers. I break down what these builds actually feel like once you're 3 years deep and still gaming on them. Join the channel so you don't miss the next breakdown. Level 3, the sweet spot 1440p mid-range build. This is where most serious gamers actually land, and for good reason. Somewhere in the $1,200 to $1,500 range, you cross into a build with a genuinely capable mid to high tier GPU, a fast multi-core CPU, and enough RAM to stop worrying about texture pop-in. This is the tier where 1440p, high refresh rate gaming becomes completely normal, and where modern AAA titles run beautifully without turning every setting down to low. The counterintuitive truth about this tier is thermals, not power. Builders chase raw performance numbers and completely ignore case airflow, which means an incredible GPU gets bottlenecked by a case that traps its own heat. Who is here? The player who's done compromising on settings wants a build that lasts 4 to 5 years and finally understands that a case is not just a box. It's a cooling system. Level 4, the streamer standard high-end 4K. Build level 4 represents the jump most people fantasize about but never actually pull the trigger on. The true high-end build in the $2,000 to $2,800 range. The biggest upgrade here isn't just the flagship adjacent GPU, it's the CPU headroom. This is the first tier where you can genuinely game and stream simultaneously without either task stealing performance from the other. 4K gaming at high settings stops being a slideshow and starts being the default experience. But here's the psychological manipulation. Most builders at this tier still cheap out on the power supply and motherboard, the two most boring components to shop for. That flagship GPU is only as stable as the cheapest part feeding it electricity. Who buys this? The content creator who needs the machine to double as a production tool, and the gamer who's finally decided resolution matters more than bragging rights about frame rate alone. Level 5. The Enthusiast Statement. Custom Loop Build. This level marks a hard line in the sand. At $3,500 and up, you cross from gaming PC into hobby. Custom liquid cooling loops, tempered glass panels showcasing every component, and a flagship GPU paired with a flagship CPU that has zero business being in the same case as each other in terms of overkill. Frame rates stop being the point. The build itself becomes the entertainment. Running a custom loop requires real technical knowledge, tubing, coolant, pump placement, and a willingness to void warranties in pursuit of aesthetics and marginal thermal gains. The fifth-tier owner isn't optimizing for performance per dollar anymore. They're optimizing for the reaction when someone sees the build. Who sits here? Enthusiasts who treat their PC like a car people modify in the garage, content creators who need their setup to look as good on camera as it performs, and anyone chasing silence and sub-60 degrees temps under full load. Level 6. The Overclocker's Playground. Extreme Performance Rig Level 6 brings us to a tier most gamers will never touch, but every gamer has fantasized about. At this level, Apple-style restraint disappears entirely. Dual flagship GPUs, or a single top-tier card paired with the most extreme consumer CPU on the market, running on custom water with a dedicated radiator setup that looks more like server room infrastructure than a bedroom PC. Every frame that can physically be squeezed out is squeezed out. The compromise? Diminishing returns, and heavy diminishing returns at that. You are spending exponentially more money to gain single-digit percentage improvements in real-world gaming performance. This tier is not about need, it's about refusing to leave any performance on the table. Who is this for? The competitive player sponsored or semi-sponsored enough to justify it, and the enthusiast who genuinely treats frame time consistency as a personal obsession. Level 7. The No Limit Flex, fully loaded dream build. We have reached the top of the ladder. The $10,000 plus, zero compromise dream machine. This machine is pure overkill. It features the most powerful consumer GPU money can buy. A workstation-grade CPU with enough cores to render Hollywood VFX on the side. Custom sleeved cabling, a case that costs more than most people's entire builds, and cooling so aggressive it could chill a small room. Nobody needs this PC. People buy it for two reasons: status or professional utility that happens to double as gaming. If you're a 3D artist, a VFX editor, or a game developer who needs this horsepower for actual work, the gaming performance is a byproduct of necessary infrastructure. For anyone else, it's a financial flex wrapped in RGB. When you look at the gaming PC lineup from the Office Imposter to the No Limit Dream Build, it's clear that this hobby isn't really about frame rates anymore. It's competing with your sense of identity. The entry rig says, "I just want to play." The 1440p sweet spot says, "I take this seriously." The No Limit build says, "I want the absolute best, whatever it costs." The specs are just noise. The real question is, which rung of the ladder actually matches how you play? Let me know in the comments which level you are currently on. Hit subscribe to stay ahead of the curve, and I'll see you in the next video.